Okay, so Mistral has released an OCR model. So in this video, I want to have a look at what they've actually released. We'll have a play with it in code and maybe compare it to some of the other things that are out there. So obviously Mistral is not the first to get into this OCR game. Even just recently, we've seen OCR, which I did a video about. Andrew Ng and his team have released a product for doing sort of agentic OCR or agentic document extraction. And then we combine this, you basically see other people are also doing things with Gemini for OCR, etc. So Mistral has waded into this new OCR space, which is actually getting more and more busy with models that are really VLMs, right? So these are basically just fine-tuned VLMs, often maybe combined with some other things as well in the form of the agentic stuff. But we know Mistral has released some really nice VLMs themselves and multimodal models with things like the Pixtral model. So this really primes them to be able to do the OCR thing. So let's have a quick look at the release. So basically what they're releasing is a model that unfortunately is not open source. So you can't just go to Hugging Face and download this model. This model is basically being served on their API. And if you want an on-prem version, I think you can basically contact them and sort of negotiate something about getting an on-prem version as well. So interestingly, one of the things about this model and the API that they've set up is that this not only does text, but it also is basically able to extract out images and things like that and be able to return them in line with the text. So if we look at this example of the AlphaFold paper here, they actually show that when they OCR this, they're able to not only get the text back for this, but they're able to basically extract out the tables and the images and the other details. Now, for things like images, etc., they're just embedding the image in there. If it's a table that they can convert to Markdown, they seem to basically just convert it to Markdown. So we'll have a play with that in code in a second. So their system can take in both images or full PDFs, and then it will extract out this content that's interleaved between text and images, or rather, I think it's maybe even Markdown and images. So this does make it quite good for you to be able to extract out something in a way that you can pass it to an LLM to do something like RAG or visual question answering, etc. over this quite easily. Now, the price for their API is $1 per 1,000 pages, and it basically works out to be double the amount of pages if you do it in the batch inference mode. So we'll have a look at that in code as well. Now, some of the things that they're highlighting, apart from the state-of-the-art things here, is that this is both sort of multilingual and multimodal. So if we come in and look here, we can see we've got the original paper here, and then it gets extracted out for the OCR version of where the image is still retained as an image, but you can see those tables and stuff like that have been converted to a proper text format and aligned, etc. in here. So things like math is able to be OCR'd and converted out as well. And finally, some of the things that I think is really impressive is the multilingual element. So you can see here it's doing Hindi, it's able to OCR it. Here it's doing Arabic, it's able to OCR it and extract it out quite nicely. And one of the things with their system is that even if you've got text which perhaps is not super clean and is not aligned like this one, it is able to still extract it out. So definitely they've put a lot of effort into making a very high quality OCR specific model. Now, if you look at some of the benchmarks that they're competing against here, you can see that they're basically topping quite a number of these other models out, including things like Gemini 2.0 Flash and Azure OCR. You can see that for the multilingual, they're topping the scores for all these different languages, including Chinese, Hindi, Russian. So clearly this is working beyond just in English, etc. Now, the other thing that's kind of interesting is that they're clearly pitching this for people to be able to run on-prem as well, saying that this can process up to 2,000 pages a minute on a single node. So you could imagine for a lot of companies that don't want to upload their data, that have privacy concerns, that have issues around things like that, this is a much more suitable option than perhaps the big cloud providers, etc. Now, another nice feature that they've got in here, which other models like Gemini, etc. also have, is this ability to basically put the document and a sort of custom prompt around it and get structured outputs back, such as JSON. Now, one of the interesting points that they point out here is that this can be then used in a chain once you've got those structured outputs to basically trigger some kind of function call or to be used in a very specific way. So as I said before, it does seem that Mistral's way to sort of monetize this is to license it out for on-prem usage by various companies, which makes a lot of sense, right? We shouldn't be criticizing these companies that are making a lot of their models open weights when they have to find some way to actually pay for all that and pay for all these trainings. So this does seem to be a really good way that a company like Mistral can attract companies to their ecosystem, etc., and be able to provide an on-prem solution. All right, I think the best thing is let's jump into the code, have a play with it, see how it actually works, and see what results we actually get back from this. Okay, so I'm going to go through a modified version of the notebook that Mistral's got out for this. They've actually put up a few notebooks, which is really nice to see for trying different things out, even for things like the batch processing, etc. All right, so first you want to basically install the Mistral API. It's going to be interesting to see, do frameworks like LangChain and stuff like that decide to support these kind of OCR models where they're really specific? I'm not sure. I think Llama Index have got their own thing going on, so they may adapt that to support Mistral OCR as well. All right, we're bringing in a PDF file and a PNG. So one of the things that's really nice in here about this API is that you can very easily just put in a PDF or an image. You don't have lots of hassles around conversion and stuff like that if you don't want to do that. All right, so we're just setting this up with a key. And here's a basic sort of example of just doing a call to upload the file for OCR, getting the returned URL, the signed URL back, passing that in, and then basically processing it with the latest Mistral OCR model and getting a response back. Now, you'll see that the response we get back is like this, where we've got basically an object with pages, which is a list, and then each page gets its own object in here. And we can see that, okay, it's able to extract out Markdown from this, and then also the various images and stuff that are in there. So that's good, but it can be like a bit frustrating to sort of read that. So one of the things that I think is really kind of nice is that they've given us some little helper functions in here to be able to basically combine all of this in a way that's quite easily readable. Now, you could definitely use this to just save to a text file to then basically inject that into an LLM for any kind of in-context learning, RAG, that kind of stuff going on here as well. They've also got a nice function just for helping us to basically get the images back. So you can see that this was the Mistral paper that we put in there. Obviously, the big image there is just that Mistral AI. Then we've got the authors, we've got the abstract, we've got the introduction. And you can see that where it makes sense to keep it an image, it has definitely kept it as an image. But where it's made sense to sort of convert it to something that is text format, it's generally done that. So I actually kind of like this. You could actually then take this and pass it into another model to actually sort of do better descriptions about it or something along those kind of lines in there. So here we can see that it's basically kept the image, but we've also got this table that's come out in Markdown as well for that. All right, so if we don't have a PDF document and we just want to do like a single image file or something like that, no problem. We can basically just take that image, base64 encode it, and then send that up to basically process. And that's what it's doing here. We're basically just getting back one page, and we can see that we're getting back all the different stuff from that page. And that image is actually this receipt in here. So we look at that a few times going through it. Now, they've got some interesting things here too, where you can make use of other models, in this case, the Pixtral model, to be able to get it to help with the layout of this. So you can see the prompt here is that this is the images OCR in Markdown, and then we pass in begin image OCR, end image OCR. Convert this to a sensible structured JSON response. The output should be strictly JSON with no extra commentary. So this is where we're getting this sort of nice parsed and structured data coming out. And it's the simplest way that they have for doing this in here. And you can see that we haven't really told it any of these terms. So that can be both a good thing and a bad thing. It's basically just deciding it to go through and work out these terms itself. And you can do that with something like the Mistral model. You can also just do that with a standard LLM. They're basically just taking the Mistral 8B model and then passing it in exactly the same prompt, no difference there. And you can see that, okay, obviously here we get perhaps less detailed than what we did with the Mistral. The other thing that you can do too, which is really kind of nice, is you can actually pass in a pydantic class of what you want the structured response to be back. So here you can see that we've got this pydantic model here of where it's going to be the file name, the topics, the languages, and then the OCR contents in here. And then we can just run this through, passing in the response format to conform to that structured OCR. So we've actually got that pydantic OCR. So this is definitely nice for when you want to be able to do a whole bunch of documents that are similar. You want to make sure that the JSON that's coming out is actually going to be the same JSON for each one. Obviously, the variables will change, but you want the keys to be the same for these. So in that case, it's better for you to just decide this yourself and be able to do that. Now, remember, here's the file that we're actually looking at for this. If we run that through, you can see, sure enough, we're going to be getting the parking receipt with the topics, the language is English, and then we've got the OCR contents coming out that we got there. Now, we could have even nested some of these things to be able to control what's going on in there. But if we don't really care about the language part here, we could actually just sort of know that, okay, we want to know what the total due is. We want to know what total paid is. We want to know the ticket number, those kinds of things. And then we could process like 1,000 of these and get the information in the same format to put into a database to be able to use in some other way. All right. I was curious to see running the same thing through with another language. So I just did a quick search online and was looking for something in Thai because I was kind of curious to see, okay, can they OCR Thai? How does that actually come out? And I encourage you to do this for other languages that they don't show in there. So it is kind of nice that they show things like Arabic. So I know a number of people have been looking for OCR models for Arabic. I know that certain languages are going to be supported more than others, etc. All right. So what I was curious to see here is, can it basically work out this sort of structure of these things? Can it get the Thai right? Now, unfortunately, they have this really bastardized sort of Roman version of Thai, which I've never really understood why people use it. And I think it's more of an old-fashioned thing, personally. But I've taken this page, I've run it through. Sure enough, straight away, you can see that it's comes back as the language is Thai. So it knows what the language is, etc. And it basically then extracts these out. Now, obviously the Thai characters here, so it's basically displaying these Thai characters as Unicode in here. And so I was kind of curious, like, okay, that's interesting. That's how the model puts it out. Let's try and convert them back. So I've just made a simple little function for basically converting this back. And you can see that sure enough, it's done a pretty good job with the Thai characters at being able to OCR them. Now, it doesn't do a great job with some of the really messed up Roman phonetic characters and stuff like that. But on the whole, it's been able to, even just taking that JSON out, has been able to work to get back to something where we've got a structured output for these. Now, remember, this is basically doing a structured output, not just OCRing everything. We're telling it what we want to find in there, and it's been able to do that. So if you are looking for something for multilingual stuff, this is definitely worth checking out in here. All right, so they've got another notebook that they've shared of basically how to do the batch inference. So basically just showing without that and then with batches. So remember, basically doing the batching is supposed to be basically kind of half price, I guess. Clearly the issue there is that obviously you're not going to get things back necessarily as fast for doing this. It's going to set up a batch, and like most of the companies that are doing this kind of thing, basically when their GPUs are not being used, they will run this through and then return that for you when it's done. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to be waiting necessarily for ages. I think you'll find that probably it can be done quite quickly, get your batched responses back and stuff like that. So if you are looking at doing something where you're going to be processing whole book or large amounts of volume, etc., this certainly makes a lot of sense. Just being able to do this, get it much cheaper, and it just allows them to send full batches through their GPUs, which is pretty much a win for everyone. Okay, so overall, I would say definitely Mistral's worth checking out if you've got any OCR needs. While it's not an open model, it's certainly a very good and reasonably cheap API. I think there are some systems out there that are probably cheaper, but I gotta say, after playing with it a little bit, I certainly feel that you're getting value for your money out of this API. And it allows you to get the information back in a way that you can reuse it and repurpose that information for lots of different things. So for extracting things from books where you're retaining the images, and not only retaining the images, but you're retaining the position of those images is really kind of nice. But you should remember that, okay, this is an LLM. You're going to see some elements of hallucination for sure in here. And the whole sort of idea of using VLMs for OCR is always going to have that element of that sometimes they're going to hallucinate, maybe they're going to get the structure wrong, those kind of things. So test it out for your use case and see how it goes. As people say, your mileage may vary. All right, as always, if you've got any comments or questions, please put them in the comments below. If you found the video useful, please click like and subscribe, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye for now.